Hello everyone, welcome back to the video on my Storytime and Drama channel. So, we talked about Ruby Franke, how she was sentenced, she was abusing her children, she was abusing her children and she did horrible things to them. Beginning in 2020, when one of the Franke children said he had been banned from his bedroom and made to sleep on a beanbag for 7 months, viewers became concerned about his mother's disciplinary methods, which also included withholding food, sending a child to a wilderness camp for troubled teens, threatening to behead a stuffed toy, and telling 2 of her children that Santa Claus would not be bringing them anything for Christmas that year because they were too numb to respond to other punishments. So clearly she did a lot of horrible things to her children, abusing them, preventing them from having sleep privileges, which is really ridiculous, honestly. Making them sleep on a beanbag, which is absolutely absurd. Like, if you want to punish your children, you send them to their rooms, you take away their video games, maybe make them do extra chores, maybe do them extra homework. That would be punishing them. What you're doing here is not punishing them, is not disciplining them, Exactly. She's punishing them in the wrong way, What she's doing here is not disciplining them. She's abusing them, If you want to discipline your children, you send them to their rooms, you take away their video games, you make them do extra chores, you, make them do extra homework. That's disciplining them. What she's doing here is not disciplining them. She's abusing them. She's pretty much torturing them here. Withholding food, making them sleep on a beanbag, threatening to behead their toys. So it's really disgusting what we're seeing here. A Change.org petition was launched reporting received of child abuse and neglect. The Franke parents posted in defense of the discipline, saying the incidents had been taken out of context. The 8 Passengers YouTube channel declined in popularity in 2021. In 2022, the Frankes separated and Kevin moved out of the house. Ruby's lead the YouTube channel began working as a mental health coach at Connie Xian's, a company run by Jody Nan Hildebrand, a counselor. They launched a new video channel together in 2022 and partnered an Instagram account called Mom's the Truth, and with offering parenting classes. Neighbors in the Frankes' oldest daughter, a college student, called authorities to check on the latter siblings after observing that their mother often left the children alone at home. So yeah, it's really disgusting what she did to her children. Anyways, let's see what Optimus has to say about this. Let's continue.
Was also sentenced Tuesday and received the same sentences. They each have 30 days to file an appeal, the judge said. So, all around just a tragic situation, right? Like, these kids, there's no deserving in any of this. When you look at what was being done, right? Like, it seems like the mom tries to frame it like, oh, I had to punish them to make them obey my order or whatever. I needed them to listen.
Like I said, you want to punish them and discipline them. You take away their video games. You send them to their rooms. You ground them, like, taking away privileges like video games. You make them do extra chores, make them do extra homework. That's disciplining them. What she did here was literally abuse them, abuse them emotionally, physically, mentally. That's not discipline. That's abusing them.
To me, right? But like I said, just taking a look at what happened here, like what was being done to these kids, denying them food and water. Come on, that's basic human needs. And depriving him of oxygen, basic human needs.
Exactly. Tipster said the same exact thing. Those are their needs. They need that stuff. They need water and food to survive. You don't take that away from you don't take that away from them and abuse them like that. They need food, they need water to survive. It's a necessity for them. It's a need for them. You can't take away needs from them. That's literal abuse. That's literally abusing them, honestly. So, yeah, she deserves to have the book thrown at her. She deserves that and much worse.
You would kill this poor child if you did that for even a few minutes, right? Kicking the kid while wearing boots, physically abusing him. Jesus Christ, right? Like, these are just, it's fucking disgusting. People like this, I know this is why we have the courts. I know we have them to punish people and, to levy out sentences and whatnot that we believe are just for crimes. But honestly, when it comes to children and it comes to defenseless people like this, in my opinion, there is not a punishment that is deserving enough for certain people. Of course, there's people who...
Exactly. Absolutely. I agree 100%. They deserve much worse than that. They deserve to be punished to the full extent of the law. Franke and Hildebrand deserve to be punished to the full extent of the law. They deserve much worse than what actually happened to them. They deserve much worse than that for what they did to their children. They deserve to be punished to the full extent of the law. They deserve much worse than what they did to their children. There's no excuse for their behavior at all. There's no excuse for their behavior at all, none whatsoever. They deserve no sympathy for what they've done. They deserve to be punished to the full extent of the law. They deserve everything that happens to them and much worse.
To beat up adults and, harm adults, deprive them of their needs and whatnot. But, to do it to a child, to a 12-year-old.
Yeah, well, adults can actually defend themselves and fight back. Granted, not all adults can do that. Adults can actually fight back and actually can resist. They have the thinking capacity and the strength to resist, but children don't have the same strength and the same thinking capacity to resist. They're defenseless. They're helpless. There's no excuse for abusing them.
Boy who simply cannot defend himself, has no comprehension of what's going on, why it's being done, anything, right? Like, it's one of those things where people genuinely deserve to burn in hell for, right? Like, I'm not a super religious guy or anything, but when you hear the stories of, like, hell being hot and, like, people going where they need to go, right? This is the type of person that immediately comes to mind, because, I don't even understand, like, how you could do this, like, consciously. This is your child. This is someone you created, you helped bring into the world, and what, over a little fucking YouTube paycheck or whatever, not only are you abusing your child, but you're allowing your business partner to abuse your kid as well?
There's no excuse for that kind of behavior, honestly. It sickens me that the 8 Pastors YouTube channel has had that many subscribers, honestly, and people were actually supporting this woman despite what she did to her children. She abused them, she harassed them, she literally, like, inflicted abuse on them emotionally and mentally and physically. She starved them. She withheld food and water from them. She took away their beds their bedrooms. So she made them sleep on beanbags. She duct taped them. She gagged them. Made it difficult for them to breathe. Even, like, honestly, there's no sympathy for this person at all. She deserves much worse than what actually happened to her. She deserves a much harsher sentence than what actually happened to her. She deserves much worse than that, in my opinion. But that's just my personal opinion. There's no excuse for her behavior. 30 years is much too generous for her, honestly. It's much too generous.
It's really disturbing what people will do.
30 years is too merciful.
That they will go to when money and fame and status and whatnot is involved. For someone like this woman here, being the, I guess, mom of a YouTube channel, not only is it bringing in, I would assume for them, solid income, right? Solid ad revenue and stuff, but I'm sure she probably also enjoyed the social perks of it, right? People maybe recognizing her at the store, or her friends and family being proud, or whatever it may be, right? There's so many different things, but no matter what the outcome was, there's no ends to justify the means here, This is just flat out terrible, and honestly, I don't buy her little excuse here, I followed counsel that led me to a dark delusion. I had a distorted version of reality that went unchecked. To me, this does not sound like accountability. Now, it's very, I think, thinly veiled and worded, almost as if it's like an apology, or we're saying sorry for something here, but really we're not. This is not something that really even sort of in any way addresses what happened. At this point, you're basically blaming other people for your actions. You're blaming delusions for your actions, when it's clear that is not what led this happening, right? That's not what happened here, Parents don't just be chilling one day, and the next thing you know, someone's like, hey, let's beat the fuck out your kid. And then they're like, you know what? I have the paddle right here. Let's get down on bro. Like, that doesn't ever happen. That's not what's going on here, right? Like, you had to have that hate, that evil in your heart to pull this off in the first place. It wasn't I got led wrong by some bad counsel. Nah, fuck all that, man. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew exactly what kind of things you were doing and what they could do to that kid. I really don't want to hear all the excuses on that bullshit, right? I had a distorted version of reality. Yeah, it's crazy you didn't have one of those distorted versions of reality where you don't starve your child, or you don't deprive him of fucking oxygen. Like, I don't even understand that, right? Like, because her explanation here is, I was just trying to teach these kids how to be obedient and to listen and whatnot, right?
Yeah, that's not teaching them to be obedient. Abusing your children, starving your children, withholding water from your children, forcing them to sleep outside of their bedrooms, withholding their bed from them, making them sleep on a beanbag, like threatening to behead their dolls, doing all these things to their children, abusing them like this. That's not disciplining them. That's not going to make them obedient. It's only going to make them hate you even more and despise you. So no, this is not going to help your children out in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely not. Yeah, the children are malnourished. Frankie's 10-year-old daughter was malnourished. Her 12-year-old son had open wounds and duct tape around the extremities. Luckily, I think God actually helped him out that one time, helping him climb out through a window, helping him to escape, because if it wasn't for that, the abuse would have continued, and Frank would have shown no remorse for what she did. She never would have like stopped what she was doing. She would have kept doing the same stupid shit, and she would have, gotten away with what she did. She never would have been prosecuted or punished for what she did. So clearly, I'm glad the son escaped, honestly, because there's no excuse for what she did, honestly. None whatsoever.
And then they say, oh yeah, she was fucking choking out her kid, or like not letting him breathe, or whatever it may be, right? Like, I don't know, man. What kind of obedience, I guess, is that really teaching? Are you trying to teach there? That sounds like some shit they do in like SEAL Team 6 training to get you acclimated to the war, you know? That is not some type of shit you do to a 12-year-old child for a YouTube.
Exactly. This is why I'm not a fan of YouTube vlogging channels, because they treat their children really badly, and they withhold water and food from them, and it makes me question if any of these family vlogging channels are actually genuine, nice people, which is probably not going to happen more than likely. Most of these family vlogging channels are doing all sorts of horrible things to their children. There's no excuse for that at all, honestly. There's no excuse for that behavior, no excuse for mistreating your children like this. There's no excuse for that at all. None of the slightest. None whatsoever. No excuse.
Right. Now, it says...
no excuse.
In the article, at least, that she had vlogged the abuse of her children on this channel. I don't really know if that's true. I didn't watch the channel before, all of this news came out or anything. I really don't know too much about the backstory. And
yeah, I didn't watch this. I never watched this channel either, but it's pretty obvious that was happening. That's even more disgusting. Not only are you abusing your children, you're broadcasting it to the world for everyone to see. Basically humiliating your children, basically making them look bad in front of your audience. Even more disgusting. There's no excuse for that at all.
in terms of like what kind of videos were uploaded there. It wouldn't be the first time that something like that's happened. If you don't remember, it's probably been 7 years by now, if I'm remembering correctly, just off the numbers. The Daddy-O-5 situation, right? Where these parents were basically filming themselves doing cruel pranks and mean shit to their kids and putting it on YouTube. And really nobody batted an eye for a long time until people finally started speaking out and it started catching waves or whatever. But like for a minute there, man, they were just uploading this shit. Nobody was saying anything. So I don't know if that's kind of like what was going on here, or if they were just kind of being more tame and like keeping the crazy, horrible things in the background. I really don't know. But ultimately, it's a pretty crazy and scary thing, right? Like,
yeah, there is no excuse for what Ruby Franke did to her children. She abused them. She tortured them. She basically withheld food from them and starved them. She abused them, you know? There's no excuse for what she did. She deserves the worst that happens to her. She deserves everything that happens to her and much worse. 30 years is much too generous. It makes my blood boil listening to the story about what she did to her children, literally abusing them like this and literally starving them and literally like withholding food from them, you know, leaving them malnourished, doing all sorts of horrible things to them. There's simply no excuse for that, honestly. No excuse whatsoever. There's just no excuse for what she did to her children. It's really disgusting, honestly. Absolutely aberrant behavior. No excuse for that at all. There's absolutely no excuse for that at all, honestly. No excuse. So yeah, that's just my thoughts, honestly. It's really disgusting what she did to her children. There's no excuse for that behavior, honestly.
to do the math, right? Let's say you're 30, 60 years in prison, you're not getting it. So it's just such a scary thought, like how many of these children just go through horrible things, and not even just on YouTube, like so many millions of kids yearly, right, are just dealing with terrible people in their lives that are causing them untold amounts of harm, that are hurting them, hurting their development. It's fucking tragic. It really is, man. So in this situation, it appears that the people responsible for all of this are definitely going to get theirs, right? They're going to get what they deserve here. This woman was sentenced to,
as they should,
4 consecutive prison terms, 60 years. I mean, she is, I would assume, a middle-aged woman, anywhere from like 30 to 50, right? Pretty broad stroke of the brush, I get it. But I mean, just to do the math, right? Let's say you're 30, 60 years in prison. You're not getting out until you're 90 years old. And that's even if you're alive at 90 years old, right? And at that point, what kind of life do you really have? You get to be the lunatic at the old folks' home eating fucking pudding 3 times a day that beat their kids up and got sentenced to basic. The whole court sentencing things happened. I wanted to just touch up on it again. So with that being said, man, thank you guys for watching.
So yeah, that's Optimus' video right then and there. So basically, I should give my final thoughts about this. Ruby Franke deserves everything that happens to her and much worse. She deserves to be in prison. There's no excuse for her behavior. She did horrible things to her children. And Optimus left a comment here saying, update February 24. Video title description and description changes. Utah law prevents 60 years from being possible, even if 4 counts out of 15 years were levied. So therefore, she can only get 30 years, honestly. So it's really, really unfortunate. But I mean, 30 years is it's still not good enough for what she did to her children. It's absolutely no excuse there, honestly. She abused her children, starved them, withheld food from them. There's all sorts of horrible things to her children with help from her partner. And I think her husband should be charged as well. I think Kevin should be charged, even though there's no mention of him being charged. He should be charged as well for what he did. There's no excuse for what he did as well. He helped, there's no way he didn't know about the abuse. He definitely knew about it. So yeah, the husband should be charged as well. Kevin should also be charged. But yeah, Kevin should be charged as well. So yeah, those are just my thoughts about this whole case, the whole Ruby Franke situation. Take care, everybody. Another video for my Storytime and Drama channel.